Well, speaking of giving people some time, guess who was back? The Butcher and the Baker and the Bunny. We got them all three in the same place at the same time, and they were against Keith Lee and Old Swerve.
Well, it was their hometown, I believe, right? Aren't they from up there?
Yeah, from up there? The home of the Wings? Yeah, whatever. So it was a tag match, and Lee and Swerve won, as they should. And I've long since tired of looking at the Butcher and the Baker and the Candlestick Maker, but I skipped to the finish because the match wasn't important. Here comes Hobbs and Starks. The team, the guys that we never get to see wrestle, that we want to see. The guys that can talk, that never get a chance to hardly. The guys that could be breakout stars, but they're hidden amongst a sea of trampoline cowboys. So here comes Hobbs and Starks on the PA, and Hobbs was talking, and he can. He sounded like he meant what he was saying. And then Starks takes over and blows that out of the water and just tears him up on the microphone talking about old Lee and Swerve. And Starks was hot, and he was up. And I'm like, can we see this match anytime? Lee and Swerve and Starks and Hobbs. You know, that would be great. And the whole thing was Starks' promo and Lee and Hobbs. We're going to find out who's the best tag team. Who's the best tag team? And then suddenly the music plays, and here comes the Hardley Boys. And by the way, is it a rib? Or did they intend for it to be that their entrance music is what they play at football games when the cheerleaders come out?
I don't know about that.
That's it, right?
I don't remember what the music was.
I've seen that on TV when the cheerleaders come out and do the cartwheels and the round-offs and everything. Is it a rib or it's apropos? Anyway, so in their childish pretend wrestler way, the Hardley Boys take this thing over and they take credit for starting the company. Let us not forget about that. And then they act like because they beat the other teams because they were better and not because they just reminded us that they started the company and they're fucking executives. So that kind of negates when they say, and we beat so-and-so, and say, yeah, I'm sure you did because you're the fucking bosses. So they tried to set up a three-way tag for next week with the Hardley Boys and Lee and Swerve and Hobbs and Starks. And as soon as they started even trying to lean into a three-way with the other two teams before they had said it, the fans started chanting, FTR, FTR. Yes, they wanted to see Lee and Swerve against Hobbs and Starks against FTR. They didn't want to see the Hardley Boys involved in this.
Oh, it's better than that. It wasn't about we want to see FTR versus one of these other teams. It was just, we prefer FTR and we're going to let you know it.
Yeah, and when they were trying to say, we're the best tag team, FTR, FTR from the whole building, even their own fans have smartened up to this now. Smarmy, smug, little grinny pricks that don't look like they get whipped cream with an outboard motor, that are constantly trying to fucking get their friends' jobs and hold down or suppress the quality talent in the company because they don't like to get showed up. And now the fans in their own building are hooting them out of the building, chanting for a team that they don't want in this three-way tag team match. So next week, it's the Hardleys against Starks and Hobbs against Swerve and Lee. And if there was any sense involved in this booking, then the only team that would not be in the running or in contention or in consideration to win that match would be the Hardley Boys. I would put Starks and Hobbs over, but Swerve and Lee would make sense as well. But let's see who wins it. Probably the only team that shouldn't. That's what I'm betting on.
Based on the way it's been booked and based on Tony's previous booking, I would actually think Keith Lee and Swerve would win the match and the belts, right? It's a tag title match. The only thing that makes me not think that is just everyone's assuming the buildup is right now towards FTR and the Young Bucks eventually meeting for all the belts. it wouldn't be a wise move to take the belts off the Bucks before then, would it?
Well, no, it would not. But that's not going to be the move to begin with, because I guarantee you that the next FTR and Bucks match will be the Bucks winning all the belts and the rubber match, the 2 out of 3. Not the team that the company's most ardent fans are chanting for in the arenas at the top of their lungs, but the EVPs that actually go home and cry and pout and complain if people don't call them the best tag team in the world. They're going to have to prove it. And since they have the power to tell the other teams that they will play along, I believe that's what will happen. If they have that match, the third match at 1-1, the Bucks will win the rubber match and they'll win all the belts so that they can say, look, we are the greatest tag team in the history of wrestling. We got all the belts from all of these companies that don't do any big business anymore.
Well, hold on. Let me ask you something, though. Thinking about where we are today and knowing that Tony Khan is someone that looks at data. He looks at what merch sales are. He looks at who moves the ratings. He looks at, I'm sure, who gets announced on a show and when tickets get sold. Looks at everything. Whatever you want to say about him, this is a guy that fills his mind with data about his company. So he can't deny, and I'm sure he's aware of what's going on with FTR. He sat next to them at that press conference. He's heard the fans. He's right there. He hears what's going on. It's an organic thing. And AEW hasn't had too many organic things that have actually taken off. Tony Khan could put his foot down and say, you know what? Letting the Bucks win that match with FTR, the third match for all the belts, would be the worst thing I could do and the wrong thing I could do for my company and my fans. Even if these guys expect that for one reason or another. Tony Khan could do that, and I'm not going to discount that he could, because I think he's smart enough to see what's happening.
Well, he could, but you know what means more to Tony Khan than statistics and data?
What's that?
Playmates. His friends. The people that he hugs, and that he's so personally happy that they came to work for him for a large amount of money. That means more, and they will hug him and they will kiss him and they will call him George and they will say, well, this is what we need to do because we're the tag team experts, Tony. Hide and watch. They'll figure out some way. They will figure out some way to, despite any business sense to the contrary, and no matter how visually ridiculous and how repulsive it is to legitimate fans of wrestling, they will figure out some way, the Hardy Boys will, to have all those belts so they can take that picture and tell people that they're the greatest wrestlers of all time, which is like fucking Vince putting the belt on himself and saying, I'm the greatest wrestler of all time. Because he could. It wouldn't be smart, but it could happen.
One more thing I want to say here. Starks and Hobbs. I've been raving about them for a while. Yeah. It's not even about the in-ring stuff anymore. Them on the mic, them as personalities. Do more with them. There's so much time on this show. It worked here. Forget about the whole Bucks thing and the whole angle, but just them coming out for only a couple minutes and being heated and yelling, and you see them like that. But get them on the show more often doing promos.
Just a 5-minute match to win and cut a promo and establish themselves. It's ridiculous. And then we see people every week for no apparent reason.